Over the past several years, I've been getting more and more questions, but they are variations of essentially asking, what is the value of my undergraduate archaeology degree? Is it actually a waste of time just to do a BA or a BSc? And do I have to do an MA or a PhD to have any sort of fruit come from my effort, as it were? If whether that's going into being an archaeologist or other careers. A few people have literally said that they've had their supervisors, their teaching staff in their department say to them, really, these days a BA isn't really worth the paper it's written on. That's a quote, by the way. You really should just go straight on to do a master's if you want to get anywhere. And yeah, it's a worthwhile question, especially if people that you look up to and people who are marking your work and people who are teaching you are saying this. And my answer is multifaceted. First of all, I think that there are cultural considerations, especially here in the UK, that began in 1997, and this was a bit before I went to uni, about 5 or 6 years before I went to uni, but it was the beginning of the process under Tony Blair to get more and more people into university. And lots of people, for example, in my school back in Prestatyn, were being told, if you don't go to university, you're gonna have a terrible life. If you can go, you should go. And it was almost we were being sort of frog marched onto these courses. Lots of people I know started in one course and then finished in another because they had simply been pushed towards doing a BA that wasn't really the right fit or the right topic or myriad other reasons. It wasn't the right university for them, perhaps. And this this good thing, this push towards social mobility, I think, um, resulted in two things. Um, First of all, there's the curse of knowledge. I love this concept, and it's the idea that it's really hard to remember what it's like to not know something once you know it. I might have talked about this on a previous video. I've certainly talked about it in private conversations recently with colleagues, and it's important because you go off and you do your degree, you learn something new, you change somewhat, and then you re enter, for a time at least, often your home environment or go straight into the work environment. And because you feel as though you've learned something new that other people don't necessarily know, or certainly don't necessarily know as easily or as readily as you do, you can appear to be, at best, enthusiastic, at worst, a little bit, um, in love with your own brain. Sometimes. But the flip side of that curse of knowledge, in terms of the perception of the value of a BA, is that lots of people who maybe their children are the first in their family to go, the first generation to go to university in their family, they feel as though they've now seen behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz style. They now know what is actually happening at these places that they were taught when they were kids are where very intelligent people go, where doctors learn to be doctors and where smart things happen. And what they see often is their kid partying a lot, frankly. And they think that's all it is. It's an experience as opposed to a life style that involves working hard and playing hard if you're doing it right. For my part, I worked too hard and played too little. Um, that's just fact. But there are an awful lot of people who do the other way around. They play too hard and they work far too little. And because of that, that sense of, oh, well, anyone could do that. I could do that. um, becomes pervasive. Parents feel as though their kids have just had a party for 3 years. They come out maybe with a 2-2 or 2-1 and go and enter the work environment where they're trying to get jobs with people who also have children who now have been to university and who also feel as though you don't know you're born, you guys. You've just been having a laugh for 3 years. And you come out with a piece of paper. So I think it's those things that have led to this state of affairs where, yeah, an awful lot of people now have BAs in this country, for example, and BScs. Some of them aren't necessarily good quality because of the differing ways and differing ways that people have gone through that university experience. Some people did just want to have fun, and that's okay, that's fine. But it does have that effect of sort of on a cultural level devaluing the perception of the BA. In my case, I put essentially, yeah, a PhD's worth of effort into my final year. Um, and it was exhausting. But I have friends and colleagues who didn't, and they're okay, they're fine. Are our BAs worth the same? I know they're probably not, but that curse of knowledge, isn't it? I know now what the value of that hard work is because I've done it. It's hard for me to look at a university career and not know that if you're doing it uh, earnestly, then it's going to be hard work. Similarly, it's really difficult for people who haven't been through that to grasp how hard you might have worked, especially if they have a whole tsunami of people coming at them with pieces of paper that look very similar. BA this, BA that, BSc this, BSc that. To actually understand that there are various ways of getting those pieces of paper. Some people may well have coasted. Other people may have been party animals. Others may have worked themselves to the bone and really genuinely have excellent minds. But it's hard to pass that. And this is the other side of that so-called curse of knowledge. Until you know something, you don't know it, do you? And I remember at the time, when I was in high school, politicians were sort of saying, "Oh, well, if you go to university, then you'll get a really good, a really well-paid job. Yes, you'll be guaranteed." No, yeah, it was ridiculous. But I do remember thinking, actually, at the time, and no one was really addressing this. How is it that if everyone, because they were aiming for 60% of the population to get degrees, if everyone has a degree and they're entering the work market, how will employers be able to discern who is who and who they really want to employ if they've all got very similar looking pieces of paper? And so, yeah, it is a problem. And in that sense, those voices that say, oh, these days a BA, this isn't worth what it used to be, are probably in some ways correct. The value has changed. I wouldn't say that it's diminished. And I think for those of us, for example, me, I couldn't afford to do an MA or a PhD. I've been tempted at various points to try and do an MA, for example, here at Newcastle University, but I just can't afford it. I just can't. I just cannot. So I take solace in the sheer amount of work I put into my bachelor's. Um, I got a first class degree, and since then I've been adding to my knowledge and working in the field with various colleagues in the field in its broadest sense, both literally in a field and in the field of archaeology. There is a sort of corporatization that we have to be aware of in terms of I guess, almost the transactional nature of a degree, paying to get the letters. And for some people, more letters equals more value, both in terms of accumulating qualifications, but also in terms of the quality of the person graduating and accumulating those degrees. For my part, I'm not convinced that's necessarily the case. But then I wouldn't be, would I?